A woman abandoned her healthy newborn twin sons by throwing them into a deep, abandoned pit where a deadly king cobra lived. She walked away without turning her head, convinced that nothing living could survive what she had just done. What unfolded in that forgotten hole before sunrise would later be whispered about as a mystery that challenged fear, superstition, and even faith itself. It was the strange, quiet hour just before dawn in a remote rural village, the time when night refuses to fully release the world. Thick mist clung to the red earth, blurring the outlines of mud houses and covering the land in a cold gray veil. Everything slept beneath that fog. People, animals, secrets. Then the silence cracked open with the low groan of an interstate bus engine. The vehicle hissed as it slowed and stopped at a lonely junction, its headlights piercing the mist like watchful eyes. The doors creaked open, and a young woman stepped down into the chilly air. She looked like she had fallen out of another world. In a village where women woke before dawn, wrapped in faded cloth to tend farms, this stranger wore a tight black crop top, bright yellow shorts, and high heels sinking awkwardly into the dust. A glittering cap sat on her head, and oversized sunglasses hid her eyes, even though the sun had not yet risen. Her name was Jennifer. But it wasn't her clothes or the unfamiliar surroundings that made her hands tremble. It was what she was holding. Two bundled shapes were pressed tightly to her chest. They were heavy. They were warm. They breathed softly. They were her newborn twin sons, only 4 days old. She didn't hold them the way mothers usually do, with tenderness and pride. Her grip was stiff, unnatural, as if she feared they might explode if she loosened her arms. She glanced left and right. The market stalls nearby were empty skeletons of wood and rusted tin. No one was watching. Jennifer pulled her cap lower, almost touching her sunglasses, hiding her face completely. Then she began to walk. She moved quickly, not toward the village homes, but in the opposite direction, toward land people avoided. It was an overgrown area near the forest where a government sanitation project had been abandoned years ago. No one went there anymore. Stories clung to that place. As she walked, her thoughts spiraled violently. She could still hear her boyfriend's voice, sharp and dismissive, echoing inside her skull. Ricky had been clear. 2 days earlier, he had tossed a plane ticket onto the glass table of his penthouse apartment and told her his flight to Dubai was leaving Friday. He wanted a woman with no attachments, no crying babies, no responsibilities. If she wanted his money, his cars, his lifestyle, she had to come alone. Jennifer tightened her grip on the twins. One of them shifted and released a soft sigh in his sleep. The sound pierced her chest like a blade. Tears slid from beneath her sunglasses, mixing with the cold sweat on her cheeks. She told herself she wasn't evil. She was desperate. She was terrified of poverty. She knew what hunger tasted like, and she would do anything, to never taste it again. When she reached the abandoned site, the fog thickened. Jagged concrete walls rose from the earth like broken teeth. Rusted iron rods jutted out at odd angles, and the air smelled of damp soil and decay. The silence there was unnatural. She stepped carefully toward the pit. It was a dark, circular mouth in the ground, plunging nearly 15 feet down. Jennifer stood at the edge, her heart pounding so violently she thought it might burst through her ribs. She whispered to the fog that she had to choose herself. She didn't open the blankets. She couldn't bear to see their faces. If she looked into their eyes, she knew she would break. Her arms trembled violently as she extended them over the pit. For a brief moment, her body rebelled. Her arms locked. Every instinct screamed no. Then fear took over. Fear of losing luxury. Fear of being alone. Fear of raising children with nothing. She squeezed her eyes shut and released her grip. The bundles fell. A dull, heavy thud echoed from below. Then silence. And then screams. Two high-pitched cries rose from the darkness, desperate and terrified. Jennifer covered her ears, turned, and ran. She fled toward the road, stumbling through the mist, never looking back, disappearing just as the first rooster announced the coming dawn. Below, the twins lay on a mound of trash, dry leaves, and old cement sacks. The fall had stunned them, knocking the air from their tiny lungs, but the debris had saved their fragile bones. They cried for warmth that would never return. They were not alone. From a deep crack in the pit's concrete wall, something moved. A massive king cobra, black and thick, uncoiled slowly. Trapped in the pit for weeks, it was cold, hungry, and irritable. The noise had awakened it. It raised the upper part of its body, spread its hood, and hissed, a deadly warning. The snake sensed the heat of the infants and slithered toward them. One baby flailed weakly, his tiny hand brushing against the snake's cold scales. The cobra drew back, mouth opening, venom dripping from its fangs. One strike would be enough to end everything. But the strike never came. The snake hesitated. The strange scent, the piercing cries, the cold morning air, something disrupted its instinct. Slowly, the cobra lowered its head and curled beside the twins, pressing its massive body near them for warmth. Hours passed. When the sun finally broke through the mist, a farmer named Samuel walked past the area, humming softly as he headed to his fields. He heard a faint sound, weak, rhythmic crying. Following it, he reached the pit and looked inside. What he saw made his blood freeze. Babies, alive, and a king cobra beside them. Samuel screamed and ran back to the village, shouting for help. Within minutes, a crowd formed. Women clutched their wrappers. Men grabbed sticks. Fear spread quickly, led by Mama Peace, a loud and influential woman known for superstition. When the villagers looked into the pit, they gasped. Mama Peace declared the children cursed, insisting the snake had poisoned them. No one wanted to go down. Fear paralyzed the crowd until two hunter brothers stepped forward. One was lowered into the pit with a sharpened iron rod. The snake struck. The crowd screamed. The hunter barely escaped death, pinned the cobra, and crushed it. The babies were lifted out and placed naked on a rock, shaking violently. But instead of comfort, fear won. Mama Peace blocked the women. She convinced them the babies were spirit children. One by one, the villagers walked away, leaving the twins to die. Then Helen arrived. Helen was older, limping, worn by life. Once married, once hopeful, she had been cast out for infertility and mocked as cursed. When she saw the babies, she saw no spirits, only children. Ignoring insults, she gathered them into her arms. She declared she would take them. She carried them to the road, paid for a motorcycle, and raced to the clinic. From there to the city hospital. Doctors found no venom, no bite, nothing. The snake had not harmed them. Helen named them Daniel and David. But miracles did not soften the village. She was rejected, threatened, denied water, and attacked at night. Realizing they would be killed, Helen fled with the twins under darkness, walking miles to the highway. In the city, she found refuge with an elderly cobbler named P. Moses. Together, they formed a family. Helen worked brutally hard, sweeping streets, carrying loads, while P. Moses raised the boys with love and wisdom. Years passed. The twins grew strong, intelligent, hopeful. Just as their future seemed within reach, tragedy struck. P. Moses died peacefully. The landlord took everything. Helen collapsed from exhaustion and heart failure. The twins faced an impossible choice: education or their mother's life. They chose her. Helen survived. The dream died, but this was not the end. How did the abandoned twins rise from nothing to power? And what happened when they finally faced the woman who threw them into the pit? Part 2 reveals everything.